And we're live with birthday boy number one. And birthday boy number one is Oebe. Oebe van der Voltevreden. And apologies to anybody who's Dutch who just heard me say that, because my pronunciation in other languages is never good. But little Oebe has turned 21 today. Haven't you, Oebe? Oebe, who when he first came, we used to call him Oebe, until somebody very kindly corrected us on here. Anyway, I'm going to leave this for a minute until we have a few more of you joining. And then once we have a few more joining, we'll tell you a little bit more about everyone. It's an Angel Eyes. Hello, Hannes. Oh, it's your buddy. Good morning, Tim. Good morning, Karen. Oebe, Tim and Karen are wishing you a happy birthday. As I say, this is birthday boy number one. Hi, Maria. Apologies if I do repeat myself, because for those of you who just hop on as the live gets going, you won't necessarily have heard it from the start. Hi, Maureen. And here's your other birthday boy with Jodie. Here's Nero. 7 today. And Maureen, was it yourself who bought him that nice shiny new robe? It's very pretty. Nice little birthday treat. He's very mellow today.
He is.
Very. Are you super chilled out after your PEMF session? It is almost like he's found a sense of relief and just the ability to relax now, because he's been holding so much tension, hasn't he?
You can just see it in his eye. He's just so zen.
He is, isn't he?
Yeah. And to say there's been loads going on, like there's been a dump of his backwards forwards. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to hand Jodie the microphone. Yeah.
I was just saying that he's been really calm all morning. To say there's been a lot of, like, the dumper's been coming past, the digger. He's just been quite happy in his turnout, so we say that and then you'll start.
Yeah, we'll see when we
kicking
go
in.
out, see whether he challenges Annie, but I
Yeah.
don't think he will.
Sorry. It's a bit windy today, which is why we're having to have a microphone, so hopefully you can hear us okay. Hi, Diane. Hi, Novi. It was you, Maureen. Well, thank you very much. It's nice and shiny and sparkly, just like the boy himself. Hey. So we've got Annie here, who it's nice to see you, Annie, because I actually haven't seen you today because you didn't come down for breakfast. So she's been off free reining with Hida. Have you seen Hida?
Yeah, they all came down. Oh, they're up there.
Oh, okay. They're all up there. Yeah, they were all off up the top this morning. There's Principal, Hida. I think Zhao had got out with them. Anyway, I digress. So what we're going to do is, while Jodie and Frey are getting these guys ready for our little outing, because what we're going to do is, as they're getting ready, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the history of Oebe and Nero. I'm probably going to start, well, I am going to start with Oebe. And then what we'll do is Jodie is going to hop on Hannes, Angel Eyes here. I'm going to hop on Anya, and we're going to take Anya and Nero and Oebe for a little walk down the road with all of you. And because I'll be riding Annie and leading Nero, I'll hand the camera over to Frey and Jodie, who will tell you a little bit more about each of them. So for those of you that are joining us for the first time and don't necessarily know what it is we do here, we're a Friesian sanctuary. So we offer safe haven for any Friesians in need that we can. Those that we can't have here, then we try and place in foster care if we can find a compatible relationship between a human and a horse. So Oebe as I say, he turns 21 today, and he's been with us since he was 18. Now, his owners got in touch with me back in 2022 because, unfortunately, one of the owners, hello Matt, one of the owners had fallen very ill and they weren't able to take care of him anymore. So he wasn't in the best of shape when he arrived. He was quite poor in condition, and I think you'll all agree he's looking rather well now. But just to go back over his own history, he's a registered Friesian, so he's registered with the KFPS stud book. So he was born over in the Netherlands in 2004, and he's by a stallion called Tonis, Tonis 393, for those of you who know your Friesian bloodlines. And we already have a son of Tonis here in the name of Hoitzer. And it's quite interesting how similar they are in some of their characteristics. His mother's father was a stallion called Jasper, that those of you that know about Friesians will know that he was a very famous stallion, and he's actually the father of Hidda. So it's interesting that Oebe is almost a combination of Hoitzer and Hidda, and you can see so much of his personality in the two of them. Interestingly as well, he's from what's called Stam 50, which is one of the quite famous Friesian bloodlines. Stam 2 and Stam 50 are both very well known bloodlines. And I've only found out today, and it explains an awful lot about Oebe. Apparently, and as I say, I only found out today, you can report to the KFPS when a Friesian is gelded, and he was actually only gelded when he was 13, which would explain a little bit of why he's such a ladies' man, because I think those hormones stayed with him a little longer, and it's one of the reasons why he gets called Rod Stewart, Mick Jagger, whoever you like, because he does like the ladies. And some of you will have seen his antics with Doutzen out in the field when she escaped and got in with him. And she would have loved to have given him a little birthday treat today, but we thought that's not quite the birthday treat he should be having. Oh, Diane, did you not know that about him being related to Hoitzer and Hidda? Right, come up, sweetheart. I'm just going to tie him back up on the cross ties now that Frey's picked his feet out. Oebe, just come here, darling, because I need to tie you up again. Come here. Sorry, excuse the dodgy filming. Okay, I will come back to questions in a minute, but just bear with me for a while. So in terms of his breeding, he's actually quite nicely bred, although Tonis was actually stopped from, he was an approved breeding stallion, but because he wasn't throwing consistently good enough quality offspring, he was actually kicked out of the stud book, and he wasn't an approved stallion after a while. I don't actually know the exact reasons, but there may have been a sort of character issue coming through in some of the offspring. Just going back over his breeding history, he does have one sister. So a lot of Friesians have multiple siblings, but he's just got the one sister. I don't know where she lives, but if anybody ever finds out and wants to give us an update, do let us know. She's not a full sister, so she had a different sire. So when he came over from the Netherlands to the UK, I believe that he went straight down to London, and oh, we've got a delivery coming in. That's bad timing, never mind. And he, for most of his life, has been a driving horse. So whether he did weddings, funerals, what kind of driving, I really don't know. But he's a very beautiful, straight moving horse who's very brave. He's a strong boy, so I'm sure that he cut a really fine picture in the carriage. As far as we're aware, he was never backed for riding, so he's never ridden, never been ridden, and it's certainly not something that we plan to start doing with him now. He now lives a retired, happy life. Oh, look, isn't he beautiful when he puts his ears up? Eh? He's beautiful anyway. He says, there's visitors, there's things going on, I want to take a look. So you can, if you've not seen before, you can head over to our website and see pictures of him when he first arrived with us. And as I say, he was skin and bone, no muscle at all. He looked like he was about 30 years old, so he was a little bit of a sorry state. So when he first arrived, our main goal with him was firstly to find out whether there were any health issues that were causing him to not keep his condition. But once we started feeding him up and giving him sort of 3-4 feeds a day, hard feed, we managed to get him out in the fields, which is the best way for him to naturally build muscle, but rather than just being stood in a stable not moving around. It soon became clear that, you know, health-wise there weren't any issues, and he just needed a lot of good food to put the weight on. So we certainly got through a huge amount of food at that time, and we will forever be grateful to all the supporters that helped us out at that time with all the extra costs to get him back into shape. And from looking like a 30-year-old when he first arrived, you know, most of the time he looks like a little 2 or 3-year-old, and he certainly behaves like a 2 or 3-year-old a lot of the time, doesn't he, Frey? Yeah. So Frey, many of you will know here from the Frey Day videos, and Oebe is Frey's, he's your, what would you call him?
I say like I need to maybe like Journey's children, but he's older than me.
He is older than you, isn't he? So he can't be your child. No, we're open to suggestions.
Child, but
Yeah, we do. We can still call him your child, can't we?
just older than me. So.
Yeah. You've got an older man in your life, Frey. But no, so as we've said, you know, we all have a number of horses that we spend more time with, and Frey has always been brilliant with all of the horses. She's always had a soft spot for Hidde, for Hoitzer, and when Oebe came along, it seemed to make perfect sense for him to be her baby, really. So they both have the most wonderful relationship, and she brings him in regularly from the field because he lives a nice, happy, retired life out in the field, being the boss of all the boys. We did, when he first arrived, put him out with all the ladies and with Hidde, but that clearly wasn't going to work very well because he's a very dominant character. So he's dominant in the herd, and he, Hidde and Hoitzer are far too similar to actually all go out together, because there'd be lots of arguing and certainly fighting over the ladies. So he now is boss of the boys. So if you've seen some of our Feeding Time live videos, you'll know that Oebe, or very fondly known as Weirdo by Frey, always gets fed first. Then comes Iceman, and then Hunnis. So he's really good with all the boys. He would love to be out with the girls, but I think he wouldn't keep his condition very well because he'd be constantly chasing them around and flirting. Nico, are they on the KFPS? Yes, so Oebe is registered with the KFPS. He's in the main stud book, and when he was a foal, he was graded as a foal and he was awarded a 3rd Premi, which is fine. You know, that's it's good to get a grading. Obviously 1st and 2nd Premies are the more sought after, and they give you an indication of the quality of the horse in terms of their conformation and movement, but it very much depends on the day with a foal and at what stage they are growing. And as far as I'm aware, he never got graded as an adult horse to see whether the stud book felt that he was star quality or not. So I'm actually not quite sure what year he came over to the UK. But he's obviously at the sanctuary now. As I say, he lives a retired life. Diane, that's a very good question, and I think I said it at the start of the video when nobody was with us. So I'm going to attempt it again, and apologies to anyone on here who speaks Dutch and speaks it properly. So his full name is Oebe Friesian. Oebe van Volta Friesian. Now, when he first arrived, because his previous owners used to call him Oebe, that stuck with us. So we called him Oebe when he first arrived, and it was only thanks to our YouTube followers that we were corrected and we were told that it wasn't Oebe and that it was Uba. So since then, we have been calling him Uba or Weirdo, because you're a little bit strange at times, aren't you? But you are very, very lovely. And you can see he's growing grey gracefully. He's got little grey eyebrows here, much like as he is on his head. So I'm sure as a baby he was completely jet black, but now he's greying gracefully. Let me have a look through, see if there's any other questions. Hi Lorna, hi Santos, Clayton. Who else have we got? Angel, Confused Macaw-bird, that's an interesting profile name. And hello to anybody on here whose name we don't see as well. Hi Nancy, hi Maddie. Zedits, they're your favourite breed. They are the best breed. Not that we're biased here at all. I'll just show you round to Hunnis, who's our original sanctuary boy. So he's the one. He's the reason why we offer sanctuary to any Friesian in need now, wherever we can. So what I'm going to do is I will shortly hand you over to Frey to tell you a little bit more about Uber. So we are going to come back to him, but what I'm going to do is take you over to our other birthday boy, who is Nero, who I know many of you started following us when Nero arrived with us in 2023. Let me just read this comment. Santos, Friesians were known for the quality of their horses and cavalry. So much so, an anti-cavalry fortification was named after them, Cheval de Frise. Correct me if I'm wrong. Do you know what, Santos? I didn't actually know that, so thank you very much for letting me know. And yes, you know, they've got a wonderful history to them. You know, they were originally, I knew that they were war horses, and in fact there's reports of them having been seen up at Hadrian's Wall at the fall of the Roman Empire. And I know that they've influenced a lot of other breeds over the years. But because they're so loyal and very people-orientated horses, I can imagine Uber being a good war horse, because he'd go up to them and squeal and kick his front legs out and challenge anybody else. Thank you, Karen. You take very good care of your horses, great food and supplements and vet care. Well, we do our best, and the only reason we can do that is because we have all of this wonderful community around us who, oh, sorry, I'm laughing because we've got a delivery of stone arriving. I'm going to digress slightly from what we were talking about, because over here we've already had 80 tonne of stone being delivered to create wonderful trackways for all our horses, or the start of some. I knew that they would end up delivering just as we start the live, but you know, these things happen. You know, as I've said many times before on our lives, we don't stage anything, it's life as it happens. But you'll see all the horses will stand here, I'll take you back, quite happily at the tie-ups, and they might jump a little bit as this stone comes out the back of the lorry, but we don't sort of shield them from anything that might be potentially scary, because that's just life. Let me see if I can get, so look, so that's Nero on the left there. He's had a little step forward, and just as this stone's coming down, because it's really important that the horses get used to anything that might happen. I worked in racing for a long time, and the horses, the yards were always kept really quiet so as not to scare the horses. And then I always used to think it was rather strange that they were then taken to a race course where there was all sorts of things going on and they were expected to stay calm. But as you can see, there's a little bit of fidgeting going on over there. Oebe says it's a bit scary, but Frey's there reassuring him. Jodie's there with Hannes because we know that they're the more sensitive ones to noise. Whereas Annie is not in the slightest bit phased. That's Annie with the saddle on and Nero beside. You're absolutely right, Barmer Boy. You do have to adjust the horses to common sounds. So once this lorry's out of the way, I will take you over to Nero and tell you a little bit more about him. But he's quite happily stood there. And I know a number of you will have joined for our live session with him over at Mel's yesterday, where he had his PEMF. And it was interesting there that he was very relaxed, but then as soon as there was a tractor around, there was a lot of tension once again. But you can see, even with what's going on, he stood and relaxed. Karen, can you ever ride Nero? It's very unlikely, but I never say never. It's not a priority in his life. You can see how he's resting this leg here. And that's the leg that he's had all the problems with his hock. So for anybody who's joining us new today, Nero came to us because he was going to be put down. He was going to be put down because he couldn't ever be a riding horse because of the problem that he had with his hock. So we don't believe here that just because a horse has a physical or mental problem that they can't have a nice, happy life and be well cared for. You know, they're not just here to serve a purpose for us humans. So we offered him sanctuary here. Sorry, let me just have a look at comments and I'll come back to his history. The wagon's now going. Thank you very much, Burlington Aggregates. Good morning, Trish. Good morning, Heavy Pockets. Vivian, have you ever tried a horse chiropractor? Yes, and physios and cranial therapy and now PEMF. It's all there to try and help the horses feel as well as possible, which is, you know, so Nero has had a number of holistic therapies that have gone alongside the treatment that he's had with the vets as well. But if I go back to his history, it was August 2023 when his original owner, who'd had him since he was just a baby, Heather, lovely, lovely lady, Heather and her husband, had actually turned up at the sanctuary with some rugs to donate to the sanctuary. Let me take